Hey there. Today I want to share a few thoughts about motivation and a key lesson that I learned during my time in Egypt. So the context is 2011, right after the Egyptian Revolution, when mass protests in Cairo and Tahrir overthrew the President Mubarak. I was living in Israel, studying Hebrew. I had decided to move down to build a straw bale house in the desert. I was living with a 55-year-old Welsh builder named Alan Middleton, a total legend, and a beautiful blonde Londoner named Sophie, who later became my wife. And we decided to go have what we thought was going to be a bit of a holiday in Egypt. Get away from the building site. I know, hard work. We were having a great time together, and we ended up in Egypt. And what transpired was a very quick and short but impactful 2-week project where instead of sitting back and hanging out on the beach and relaxing, we decided to mobilize the local businesses, residents, and tourists to come together to try and shift the way that the people dealt with plastic waste. What was happening was most people were throwing plastic bottles into rubbish bins, and those rubbish bins ended up getting dumped in the sea. There was a stark and alarming rate at which the coral reef was decaying and dying. And this is a massive problem worldwide, but we witnessed the devastation in the Red Sea in Sinai. And it was absolutely tragic. And some people were feeling the pain of this, but they were also feeling a rise in motivation as a result of the social context, having just overthrown President Mubarak in a completely unprecedented way in history. The Arab Spring brought about this new sentiment about change and our ability to make it. We were really lucky and very fortunate to come into a context where people felt so highly motivated to come together and to do things differently. And so when we decided to say, hey, you know what, we're going to do this thing. We're going to start doing beach cleanups on these dates. We're going to involve scuba divers. We're going to film it. Does anybody want to get involved? Everyone got on board. And all we did was act as a prompt, a small little catalyst for some really significant change. Of course, it didn't start off significant. It ended up becoming something much bigger. It snowballed. It began as something very small and simple, just a single beach cleanup. But the dynamic of motivation is that it does exist in waves. It rises and it lowers, it peaks and it troughs. And our ability as behavior designers to create lasting change often rests upon our ability to make things easier to do. And that is key in the context of change. But sometimes there are opportune moments to basically harness and capitalize on people's rise in motivations and to compel people to act in a specific way because they're feeling moved by the events in their life and the events on the earth. So now looking at the opportunity of COVID-19, I think something really significant is happening around the world. I think everyone realizes that change is in the air. The Black Lives Matter movement has propelled an entire planet to focus on standing up for the injustice of racial minorities. This is amazing. The world needs this change. And I'm so happy about this because it's not okay to treat some people like they're worthy and some people like they're unworthy. Our world needs to balance itself and to begin to care for humans evenly and equally. But it's also not okay the way that we're living on the earth. And so I'm really excited to see the likes of this kind of powerful movement that happened in Egypt and in Tahrir, the powerful movement that's happening with Black Lives Matter, be applied to the climate crisis. Because I think COVID has shown us that our planet is sick and the way that we are living in it is not healthy and it's not sustainable. And one novel virus popping out of a wet market in Wuhan, a context which has many different types of animals, live and dead, slaughtered, lying on top of each other. This is obviously not a good way to live as humans. This is not being a steward of the earth. And so I'm looking at the world around me and saying, can we capitalize on this motivation wave to compel people to change for the good of our planet, for the future of our own lives and our children's? I wonder what the rise in motivation in you is asking you to do. Can you take a small step towards creating a better future for yourself, for your family, for your friends, for your children if you have them, for their children? Harness that rise in energy, that desire to do good, and do something with it. You can start small and it will snowball. Impact happens in this way. This is how history changes, is small groups of people feeling highly motivated about changing the world who come together and say, hey, enough is enough. We're ready. Let's do this thing. Thanks for tuning in. I'm super excited to share with you guys some amazing news over at Goodery. We got big things in the mix. Stuff is happening. Stay tuned.